Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Libra. And this could mean that relationships are a bit of a sore subject for you. Perhaps you've had a pattern of relationships that do not work out, and you may be ambivalent about relationships in general. There's a part of you that is obsessed with finding one, and at the same time, you may not trust people uh, enough to let them in or to believe that they're not going to hurt you. Before I continue, I want to give a shout out to advancedastrology.com, which I am using as the source of my material, but I am putting this in my own words, so I can't say that I am interpreting it the same way that they would do so. So one thing that I've heard about Black Moon Lilith is that it's similar to Pluto in the effects. So that repression, that shadow side, is something that we really associate with Lilith, and where it shows up in your chart, in the sign, but also in the house, we can look to for these areas where there's some kind of extremism. Might be one way to put it. For some people, it could be rebelling against something that was kind of prevented or withheld. And in other cases, it could be like rejecting it because for some reason, whatever the influence was something that was kind of pushed upon you. So in this case, love becomes a weapon. Maybe the way that you felt loved or unloved growing up has informed your current attitude towards love. And whatever it is, it may not be balanced. There is some kind of extreme attitude towards it. And it's ironic because Libra is a sign of balance, so that makes it even more off kilter, if you will. So that's something that I forget to do sometimes. Don't only look at the fact that your Lilith is in Libra, but see what house it's in, because that is going to give you some information as well. So Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus, one of the key words of Venus is about value. So it can be people's values, but that can also be how you value yourself. And apparently, according to this particular site, self-worth can be an issue that comes up. Now, in astrology, the second house, that's actually Taurus, the other sign ruled by Venus, is connected to self-worth and not Libra specifically. But I go along with this. I think that this is certainly the case whenever you're dealing with relationships, is whether or not you feel like you're that you're lovable or that you're worth being loved. So that can certainly feature into things. One of the things that Libra struggles with is being overly concerned with the opinions of others. And this plays out in people-pleasing behaviors, in trying to, not be controversial when talking to others, always trying to have that diplomacy in your speech, but it's kind of like policing yourself to make sure that you never say anything that's going to be offensive to someone. And that's really not authentic, because when we're having conversations, some people take offense to very innocent comments that we make because of their own stuff that comes up. Some people are hypersensitive. They're going to do it regardless. And Libra is definitely good at being gracious and accommodating and things like that, but sometimes it gets taken too far. So the reason I'm even saying that is because somebody might say, well, of course you shouldn't offend people. Well, that's, a given, but this is taking it to the next level. And when you are really connected to yourself at a deep level and you know who you are, you're not looking for that validation from other people. And that's kind of the bottom line. That's what self-worth is. And that's where relationships come in, because the seventh house is the house of the other. And it's no coincidence that it opposes the first house of the self in astrology. And so it's like when we are in a relationship with another person, we're not supposed to erase ourselves. We're not supposed to lose ourselves. And Libra rules partnerships. So the self kind of like disappears into this partnership. But it shouldn't be that way, where it's completely dissolved into this two-headed monster where you don't have your own ability to shine as an individual. One thing they mentioned, which is interesting, I don't know if I agree with this, but I'm going to defer to them because I'm still learning a lot about Lilith, is they were saying that you have to be careful about who you spend time with, because it could be destructive for you to be around people who are not a good influence. And what I would say about that is, if you have prominent Pisces, so either Pisces sun, moon, rising in particular, this will exacerbate those tendencies, because that's something that I would associate with Pisces in particular. When you were growing up, this is for all Lilith and Libra, you might have experienced an inharmonious relationship between your parents if they were still together when you were growing up. And even, I would say, even if they were not living under the same roof, maybe you spent time with one parent and then the other, and occasionally you saw them interacting and it was not good. And that kind of thing could be very traumatic for somebody like this. And there are other factors that would also enhance these tendencies. Again, if you're, like if you have the sun in Libra, people who have prominent Libra, maybe the sun in Libra or the moon in Libra, you just get very nervous about conflict in general. I know from dealing with Libra individuals, and it just like irritates the living hell out of me, because I like debating. I like things that are kind of, that my other people might see as fighting, but it's like when you're having a spirited conversation. And people who are really attached to harmony, they get very nervous when those situations arise, because I'm assuming it triggers the memory of when their parents or somebody close to them were not getting along, and that made them feel bad in some way. The thing that I would kind of like have you reflect upon is, do you think that it lessens the drama in your life, or it increases it? Because it seems to me that the people that I have seen who are like this, that they actually create more drama for themselves, because they're so afraid of conflict and so avoidant of conflict that it follows them. And this is one of those things where we have to be very, very careful about That's kind of like part of the shadow self. Is there's a saying, what you resist persists. So that's just something that has come to my mind, because when I do these readings, I want people to just think about it as it doesn't have to be this way. Because I'm afraid sometimes that people say, oh, well, I have this position, so that means I'm doomed to experience this for the rest of my life. No, it just is a deeply ingrained pattern or an attitude that you can question, and then you can change. So, so you don't like drama for sure. And that's one of the reasons why you might be afraid of relationships, because if you have just seen examples of relationships not working out and you don't like drama, obviously you're going to be like, I'm going to avoid that. And when, people are, and I would say also being afraid of intimacy. They didn't use that term that I can see. But when you're getting, yeah, well, they say being close to someone, so they did say that. And what they said is that you can sabotage relationships, and that is certainly true, because when a person is afraid of something, but yet they want it, they can draw it to themselves, and then they can turn around and do something to make it go away. And then they can blame outer circumstances for it, because this is happening, this is coming from the unconscious or the subconscious. This is not something that they are very aware that they're doing. So you might have commitment issues, and you have to look to other placements to see how intense that could get, because who knows, if you have your sun in Libra, you might find it easier to commit. Maybe even though Scorpio can have trust issues, I would say the water signs might commit more easily, because relationships are their bread and butter. That's what they really are into. Now, another thing that they mention, which is interesting, is being seductive. And you find, they say, I'll just read it verbatim. People with this placement are usually very seductive. They possess strong sexual energy, and the other sex, or the sex they prefer, finds them attractive. Lilith in Libra finds power in being desired. This placement suggests that you pay attention to your physical appearance. Now, what I would say about this is that Libra, in and of itself, is not a sign that I think of as craving seduction or being seductive. I think Libra loves beauty, the harmony that comes from beautiful appearance and surroundings. But because of the Lilith angle, it kind of Scorpios it up a little bit, makes it more plutonic. My feeling is that they're talking about power, but I think that even with power, they're still looking for having the upper hand in a relationship, or even attracting relationships in the first place. I don't think it's just to seduce so that the person can have this sense of being sexual in and of itself. I could be wrong about that, but that's not it. I don't sense it in that way. Like for instance, if somebody has Scorpio rising or Pluto in the first house, and especially if it forms a conjunction with the ascendant, I think that they might be more inclined to do something like that, because they may also come from a background where they were abused, sexually abused or whatever, and they're trying to kind of flip the script and be in that position of power. But in this case, I think it's more of looking for love, but then also fearing that love will control them or betray them in some way. So I don't know. That's how I see it. But it's still very important to look at it from that angle, because um, if somebody is doing something like that, um, they could do all kinds of things. They could get plastic surgery. They could, like and I'm speaking specifically of women, because women seem to be more vulnerable to all of that stuff, and not really realize that they're doing it for that reason. Um, Getting breast implants, all of these things. This is not me judging, but me saying that I have read a lot of people, a lot of women talking about why they got um, plastic surgery, and just justifying it like they were doing it for self-empowerment, when in fact lurking far behind that could be something that is connected to wanting to be loved and wanting to be somebody to be in a relationship with them. But I would not consider any of that. And especially something like breast implants, where it is kind of like a sexual, like lure, or, being alluring. It's not, having a facelift is not necessarily, sexual. It might be beauty, but it's not sex. But specifically something like a breast implant, like breast implants could be. And the reason is because um, to me, that is not the way to go about finding true love. I mean, you might find a person that's willing to be attracted to that, but that's not necessarily love, just because you can attract someone. So that's one of the things that the person has to sort out. When it comes to appearance, is, am I attracting somebody who's going to love me and my soul, or they're just going to love my body? And my body is going to keep aging. So what's going to happen in 10 years? Am I going to just have to be on a payment plan with a plastic surgeon or something? Or how is that going to work? So those kinds of things can get very confusing because of our society. Our society saying, yeah, you go girl, and you're just loving yourself by doing these things on the physical level. And so the other thing too is they mentioned overeating. Again, those things that they're mentioning sound more like Taurus traits than Libra, but maybe with Venus, it's just that self-indulgence and trying to replace one thing with another. For sure, when people are seeking out pleasure, a lot of times it can be because they're trying to make themselves feel better, but they're going about it the wrong way. And they mention self-love, learning to love yourself, which is, of course, easier said than done. It's just like, okay, I'll love myself. No, it's something that is a process. But one of the things that I would say is learning to be an authentic individual, because trying to be what others want you to be is not getting you what you're looking for. And this is why it can be false advertising. If you're trying to appeal to somebody physically because of what you think they would like, and not just being, or just even the way that you act, if you're trying to appeal to another person, that's not you. You want somebody who's going to be attracted to you when you look the way that you normally look, and when you act the way that you normally act. And then you can really feel secure that that person loves your essence. What's really happening in some of these situations is that people are rejecting their core self. But sometimes when Libra is involved, that person doesn't have a core self. Or they don't, I mean, we have a core, but some people have really neglected it because they have been so busy like worrying about what other people think. So that might be where you begin to build things up, is like, deciding what you like, deciding what you want to do and what your opinions are, and just aligning with them, not rejecting them for, to please somebody else. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care.